Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Daya Prakash, and I'm your host today. I'll be moderating the session. First of all, let me welcome you all on behalf of SMEVenture and Sophos to an interesting webinar that has been put together. And the topic for today's webinar is SOC, a victim of pandemic. I am so delighted today to have such an esteemed speaker panel and industry expert, subject matter expert with us around today for this discussion. Mr. R.N. Mohanty, President IT Pidilite Industries Limited. Mr. Manish Chandegara, Head IT and CISO, Grasim Industries Limited. Mr. Vishwas P. Chitale, MD and CTO Chitale Dairy. Dr. Mukesh Mehta, CTO Batlivala and Karani Securities Limited. Mr. Rafeeque Chaki, Manager IT, House of Anita Dongre. Mr. S. Raghunatha Reddy, Executive Vice President and Head IT, UTI Mutual Fund. Mr. Tanveer Shaikh, Zonal Manager West Sophos, and Mr. Ravindra Baviskar, Director Sales Engineering Sophos. Welcome everyone. Before I start the discussion today, I would like to request all of you to one by one introduce yourself. I will invite Dr. Mukesh Mehta first so that he can make his quick introduction. Dr. Mukesh Mehta.
Hi, good afternoon, friends. This is Mukesh Mehta here. I'm a CTO CISO at a broking house known as B&K Security based in Mumbai. We are primarily into institutional broking, and I take care of the entire technology landscape here. Looking forward for a good session. Thanks.
My name is Mantesh.
Same here.
I'm a publisher and director community with
Mr. Vishwas, if I may request to introduce yourself, please.
Myself is Vishwas Chitale. I look after research and development in Chitale Dairy, and I worked in this industry for last 30 years.
Wow, a lot to learn from your rich experience, Mr. Vishwas. Mr. Rafeeque.
Yeah, hi. Myself Rafeeque. I was working for the House of Anita Dongre. From last 18 years, I'm in this industry. So working as an IT infrastructure manager. I take care of the complete IT infrastructure of the company and the security perspective.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much for joining us. Issue fix. If I may come to you, Mr. Tanveer, for your quick introduction.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Tanveer Shaikh. I'm working with Sophos as a zonal manager from last 4 years now. So looking forward for a great session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravindra.
Hello everyone. My name is Ravindra Baviskar, and I'm working as a director sales engineering here at Sophos, and providing the end-to-end security solutions to the customers like you. And one of the customers which I've been closely working with is Chitale Group, and honored to serve them as a security consultant. So looking forward to the panel discussion.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Mr. Ravindra. As you're all aware that today's topic is SOC, a victim of the pandemic. It would be great to hear from you, Mr. Ravindra. What is the relevance of the topic? I know that this is, a crucial thing for any organization today, given the current dynamics, whether it is economy, whether it is, all the other factors affecting the organization, right? And, a huge thirst and, on this particular topic. But I like to kind of request your help on setting the context so that we understand the depth of the issue and nuances around the topic today. So over to you, Mr. Ravindra.
Yeah, thank you, Daya. And honestly speaking, to do the same, I have prepared a small presentation. It is not a lengthy presentation, of 5-6 minutes of presentation, which will kind of set the context properly, and then hand it over to the panelists to have a exciting discussion ahead. Let me just share my screen quickly. So given the profound impact of COVID-19 and the constantly evolving threat landscape, the constraint of operating SOC, which we commonly known as a security operations center remotely, and with the increase in remote workforce, with evolving business demands, traditional SOC isn't enough. So there is a need to redefine, re-engineer, and re-architect the security posture at the best practices. And to do so, I'm have a small presentation to set the context, and I'll just start with that now. So we all know Security Operations Center. Now, what is SOC? SOC is a centralized function within an organization employing the people, process, technology to continuously monitor and improve the organization's security posture. Now, while they preventing, detecting, analyzing, and even responding to the cybersecurity incident, most of the large organizations have in-house SOCs ensuring all the data assets users within perimeter and the corporate boundary are secured. This holds true until the last year before COVID-19 pandemic started. Now, COVID-19 global pandemic has not only impacted the SOC overall, but it has also impacted the overall approach to look at the cybersecurity in general. So, as I said, COVID-19 has rapidly accelerated the shift to home and remote working. Organizations are migrating their data application to the cloud. It's just not the business environment that has shifted, attack has shifted too, right? And attacks have become more advanced, sophisticated, and advanced in nature, leveraging all those powerful tools which are by default available on customers endpoint on the server. They don't need to deploy those tools, powerful tools which they used to deploy earlier, because all those tools are now available in the customer environment itself in the form of PowerShell, task scheduler, and all those stuffs, right? We call this particular technique as leaving of the land attacks or the techniques, and they are also using automation in their attack to cause maximum damage, hence demanding the maximum return. And such shift in business and attacks demands in IT revolution too, right? And traditional in-house SOC not only require technologies like firewall, or other I should say next generation firewall, next generation endpoint, email, DLP, but they also require tools like SIEM, right? SIEM solutions to aggregate and the correlate events and data coming in from all those technologies, and the people you are using, and the people who can effectively use those tools in overall increasing the simplicity in the security. So it is not about having the tools, but it is about having expertise to operate those tools as well, and that is what SOC is all about. We all know setting up an in-house SOCs requires budget for technology, which I just talked about, and the resources to hire, but also requires a budget to maintain it. And as per the survey, large corporation can spend upward almost up to 1 to 2 million on the security operations annually. But then overall, the ROI of SOC or the security operation is been dropping during the pandemic. Now let's see how the landscape is shifting. To talk about first business shift, as I said, organizations are constantly looking for the ways to improve productivity, scalability, and the efficiency. Hence, they have created a interconnected supply chain. They are migrating their data and applications onto the cloud. In parallel, the COVID-19 has rapidly accelerated the shift to home and the remote working. It's just not the business environment that has shifted, attacks have shifted too. Attacks have become more advanced, sophisticated, coordinated, leveraging all those powerful tools, as I said, on your environment, right? And they are also using the automation in the network. And this shift in business and attack requires a shift in IT security too, right? So business attacks are always evolving. They will keep evolving. Hence, the future of IT security needs to enable a unique feedback loop so it can constantly learn and improve this evolution. And that is exactly what we are going to talk about. So just to summarize, whether we like it or not, perimeter has gradually destroyed. Times have certainly changed, and all of a sudden we are not sitting in office, we are not sitting in a trusted environment or a corporate boundary. User wants to work remotely on an untrusted environment and wants to access the corporate data and the resources. Mind you, work from home is here to stay. In a global survey conducted by Gartner, where 88% of organizations surveyed worldwide had it made it mandatory or encouraged their employee to work from home even before the COVID-19 pandemic was started, right? And this will continue. And when I say 88% of organization worldwide, that's millions of organization. As I had already told, adoption of public cloud platform has increased a lot during this pandemic. And the public cloud platform means the devices and the services which used to run within the corporate perimeter now can run outside of it now. In short, everything is everywhere. And this evolution of live everywhere, work everywhere, and service everywhere has given attackers a larger attack surface to exploit. So, hence, it becomes equally important for organization to secure everything. When I say everything, secure users wherever they are, secure all those applications migrated or planning to migrate to the cloud. At the same time, the customer who still needs to protect their corporate boundary or the perimeter. We are completely not gone away of the corporate network yet. So we need to secure all those three. Well, organizations are looking for adaptive cybersecurity ecosystem, which you can also call it as a virtual managed SOC or virtual SOC, right? So managed word can be depends on whether organization has expertise or not. I'll talk about that later. Right? And this adaptive cybersecurity ecosystem enables a unique feedback loop so that it can constantly learn and improve your system. And that is exactly which I'm going to talk about in my next slide. Right? So what is exactly the adaptive cybersecurity ecosystem, or in short, ACE, is all about, and how it addresses the new reality and the shifting landscape. So ACE basically starts with collecting the threat intelligence from various sources like threat labs, security operation, artificial intelligence group, and these real-time threat intelligence capabilities will continuously improve your next generation technologies, which you can see on your screen, which can be firewall, endpoint, mobile, email, encryption, right? All those technologies or tools you are using, right? And it will continuously improve, which you have implemented in your environment. And on top of it, there has to be a data lake. Now, data lake basically takes information from all those products and the threat intelligence sources with real-time analysis that enables defender to prevent breaches proactively by finding the suspicious signals among the noise, right? So data lake will be collecting all those information from the technologies and the tools you are using, right? It will do AI to it, artificial intelligence to it, and will give you the suspicious signals so that you can work upon it. In parallel, the open API, which is the important part of an ACE, will enable customers, partners, and developers to build tool and the solutions that interact with your ACE system, right? And lastly, it has to be managed through a centralized management platform. So all your security is in one place with unparalleled efficiency. So I'll quickly go back to the SOC example and their challenges. So this was the typical SOC we talked about. Now with ACE, you can simply replace the SOC with adaptive cybersecurity system, right? Then it not only going to give you protection that we all need in shifting landscape, but it also going to reduce the overall cost by 50 to 60%. And of course, you have a team to in-house to do them. Now, as you can see, you just need a team who can monitor and take action onto your adaptive cybersecurity system. But then if you don't have a team, you can simply add the managed services like MTR, MTR, MSP, right? Who can manage it on the behalf of you, closely working with your team to contain and neutralize the threat that you just do. You just need to do one thing. You just need to monitor the centralized management platform, right? And monitor the alerts and the event generated by it, because a team is doing on the behalf of you. And that's why I said it can be a virtual SOC or virtual managed SOC, right? And which can be managed by the team sitting at home or sitting at anywhere, not a boundary or restrictions like a typical traditional SOC has, which has to be managed through in-house, right? So that's it from my side, and I think I should be able to set the context for the same, and I would like to hand it over to the panelists for the further discussion.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ravindra, for that wonderful presentation. I know we have the experts sitting on the panel today, but to a layman like myself, I completely relate to it when I see that we're talking about new emerged scenario where complete task force has become work from home, virtual environments. What kind of threats it might be, what kind of pressures it might be putting on the SOC and the team. So, I like to hear from industry leaders themselves who are dealing with this situation very effectively. And I would like to start with you, Mr. Vishwas. So Ravindra spoke about work from home scenario, and I think at the crux of the topic of the today's discussion, the fundamental change that we have all observed is, enablement of work from home, right? So I would like to capture everyone's thought on how have you been effectively dealing with work from home requirement in your enterprise, and what is the kind of challenges, etc. But what is the scenario? Let's understand that first before we move on to challenges and the opportunities. To start with you, Mr. Vishwas. Mr. Vishwas, you seems to be on mute. Uh, Not able to hear you.
Okay, by the time Mr. Vishwas continue with settles with him, let me jump into it. Uh,
Sure.
the typical the typical thing is now we are already into the work from home work culture actually. Now this has come into the culture. It is now close to 18 months. And typically people like us or the corporate like us in the broking industry where we are purely institutional broking house, this was something which we never planned. So at the all of a sudden this came as a complete work from office, and we were designed to make a work from office because of the institutional trading, because of the large algos, HFTs, the research, in-house research, and everything was on off in office on premises. Even the data center was completely on premises. So all of a sudden overnight it happened, and we were forced to make many changes. So now the things now when we recap this in last 18 months, the things have now the life has become this has become a new normal. This has become a ordinary from us. But for those first few weeks, everything was a challenge. Setting up the VPN, purchasing 200 odd laptops in 2 months was a serious challenge in making the logistic. People were those 3 months, people were for 2 3 weeks, people went to their native places across the India. So those were the logistic challenges, the VPN, the firewall changes, the work from home, the entire setup. So those were the things was the challenging. But now today, after 18 months, 16 18 months, this is still the remain same. We still have those challenges. We still continue to have a various pointers today also. But things have settled now. People are also settled into it. This is the now becoming a normal, like Mr. Ravindra mentioned. Even the Gartner is saying that 88% or 78 or whatever, a huge percentage company wants to continue as a work from home. So let's move ahead in the life. Things now have settled, and everything is now work designed to a hybrid mode. So I think the hybrid mode will continue in the long run. I don't see in the
Sure.
next 1 year or something, things will revisit in after 1 year, maybe mid 22, how things settles. It is a back to work from home, or it is back to complete work from office. As of now, the hybrid mode is a statement for next 6 months to 1 year.
True. True. Thank you so much, Dr. Mukesh. Thank you so much. Mr. Vishwas, can we have your views? Looks like, yeah, okay. So, Mr. Rafeeque, if you may let us know the work from home scenario in your enterprise and the kind of, your experience around
Yeah,
it.
yeah, sure, why not? As you know, initially we never thought that this kind of situation will come into the sector. So when suddenly the lockdown happens, so we not have that kind of arrangement to go with to make the people to work from the home, and very big challenge for the IT support people to support the users while they're working on home. Initially, we not have that kind of infra. Most of the users they have the laptop, some have desktop, so we need to be arrange the laptop for them. Somebody has to be take away, and mostly we have the designers. So designer they have the very huge file, so we not have that kind of provision for that. So within 10 days, we can make the infra such like that. So very easily user can be without any challenge, they can work from the home.
Okay.
So now,
Okay.
as of now, all has been said. So user also used to with that, and even IT team also used to with that how to support the people when they work from home.
So, Mr. Manish, let's continue till the time we get Mr. Vishwas back.
So there was also big challenge, as Mr. Rafeeque said. Many of users are on desktop only. So the challenge was to provide them a laptop and this kind of systems where we can, remotely they can work.
Okay.
And then the second challenge was connectivity. How to give them a secure connectivity, like VPN, remote desktop. What is the suggest way? So that was a challenge, but somehow we could able to manage with the help of VPN. And also there was a challenge for bandwidth. So this kind of challenge was there for the remote work, as well as also sometimes the meeting. So meeting, how to arrange the meeting, how to discuss internally. So we have to find out such a tool where everybody can, come on a same platform and then can talk.
Sure.
So that was a challenge we faced.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Manish. Yeah, Mr. Vishwas, you were sharing your thoughts and we couldn't hear you, unfortunately, but we can hear you now, sir.
Okay, very good. Now the topic is SOC, right? So traditionally, in a pandemic time, you cannot have SOC which is situated, in the campus or in the on-prem. So it is very difficult to get people to manage SOCs, and especially on SME industries, because this topic is for the SME. The SMEs cannot afford to have, the expertise of, the hackers and the people around who are going to attack. So it's very difficult to have the team which can really mitigate the issues. So what we have done at our place is we have gone for managed threat response team, and all the endpoints. Basically, in a data center you have east-west traffic and north-west, north-south traffic, which is coming into data center and to the users. And once you have people outside of your campus, it's very paramount importance that all the communication which is happening to your data center is secured. So the weak point or weak link in the whole chain is the computers and laptop and BYOD devices. So it's very important to have MTR or EDR tools installed on all these endpoints. And we decided to go for Sophos MTR, which is managed by Sophos. So we have about 200 plus devices which have been taken care by our employees. And if you really see on daily basis, you get about 8,000 to 8,500 detections, and it's humanly not possible for SOC team to really go and analyze all these things. So with the MTR, it is very well easy for us to go each and every incident, and all these incidents are centrally reported. So you can you can take corrective actions, and probably if the panel permits, I can show you some Sophos central response dashboards. So can I share some dashboards, Ravi? So if they want to see the dashboards, I can show how system looks like, and
we can have a quick look at it. We can have a quick look at it, and
so should I share this, or can you ask the team to share my?
Somebody needs to
Yes,
make you
Mr.
present.
Vishwas, you've been granted the rights. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see your screen now. Yeah, we are able to see your screen.
Yeah, so this is the dashboard. So on this dashboards, you can see, endpoint activity status, how many are really active. Then here, you can see these are the MTR matrices and detections. And these are the active cases which are going on. So it's paramount importance because you cannot have in this world a real-time analysis of what is really going, inside of your network. So if you go in threat cases, so you have, threat cases displayed, and who is doing what, and what kind of, users are affected. So all that is, visible on this dashboard. Plus on MTR front, so you can have MTR dashboards also. So in MTR dashboards, you can see, what kind of attacks are coming. So these are the detections. So it says that, they are down by 58%. And there's only one active case which is, present there. This particular window shows, how many attacks are on Windows servers and Mac OS. So it gives a complete, understanding of firewalls, complete understanding of, endpoints. So you can mitigate the, threat by using solutions like MTR. And I think I advise, the SME people that because we cannot afford to have, onboard, SOC center which will manage all these threats in pandemic time. So its best way is to go for a managed threat response, and especially on email side, because if you go for email gateways, so this gives you how many emails have been potentially threats, how many emails are scanned, and because major attack vectors come from the emails. So it's very important that you have emails also scanned, because the weak link or hackers getting into system is through the emails. So some kind of mechanisms to control the what is really happening in the email client, and especially on encryption, are very important.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Vishwas. Thank you so much. Mr. Tanveer, if I may come to you, you've been speaking with industry leader across the industry verticals, right? Mr. Vishwas spoken about some of the mechanism through which he is able to effectively manage the whole work from home scenario, right? As they say, it's easy to build a fort than replicating that fort in every house where your key stakeholder lives in, who are like very critical to your security operations, right? What has been your observation during this pandemic era, Mr. Tanveer?
Yeah, sorry. Can you actually, in between I got muted. So, yeah, Mr. Daya, what was your question? Sorry, I didn't get
No, I'm
that.
saying that you've been
Because I was
interacting
not
with
able to.
industry. Yeah. I was asking you that you've been interacting with industry leaders across different industries, right? Mr. Vishwas spoke about some tools and technologies, but just the whole shift that has come through this work from home scenario. What has been your take? How people are effectively dealing with it, and how big you see it as a challenge?
Absolutely, it is. So when we started, I remember, the first session when I had when the pandemic started, and the attacks were so sophisticated that point of time that things the attacker used were all realistic. So the websites with HTTPS, proper certificates, properly well crafted spamming emails with good links, and the emails were looking very authentic. So that made life difficult for customers. Number one. Number two, as I could hear from customers that there was a big shift. People were having difficulties setting up infrastructure. So security was a least thing wherein companies were focusing more. They were focusing more on how they could start the infra that work could start, and that is what triggered so many incidents during that pandemic time. And as Vishwas ji really uh, helped us with the dashboard. Thank you, Vishwas ji, for showing that dashboard. If you see Sophos central dashboard, so customer who had that holistic view on a single dashboard, that really helps, wherein you see all your perimeters. Like now working from home, as Ravindra rightly said, that now there is no perimeter, so your attacks coming from email, your endpoints, the sensors which are there, which is getting that data for you, and the labs, with the help of Sophos intelligence, is giving you that capabilities of detection that really helps. So things which are important now is to have a tool which would give you that visibility of the blind spots, and which could work with your infrastructure as your infrastructure goes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tanveer. Dr. Mukesh, you know, you've spoken about challenges arising out of this work from home scenarios and trying to effectively deal with it. And Mr. Vishwas also speaking about how implementation of tool and technologies. But I mean, if you can help us understand the current practices or pre-pandemic practices of so-called SOC, right? How you saw them kind of becoming, redundant in some sense, and then you having to evolve around, certain key practices of SOC, which is monitoring and diagnosing and stuff like that. So if you can share some of the experiences around that, please.
I think we need to revisit. Everybody had to revisit all the practices because your SOC was never designed in a pandemic situation. So your SOC, everything is a designed was designed when people are in and around. So the things have changed, and you have to change yourself on all those things. So what has been is that you need to do entire landscaping again. You need to revisit, or what are your data classification, what is the risk of each system. You need to revisit the vulnerability or threat on the each system. You need to, what Tanveer was mentioning, that you need to have a proper threat assessment, because many things looks very close to good, close to very right things, but in the background, something is phishing, something is wrong. So you need to have a assessment properly done. So the detection or monitoring or the response management has changed overnight because you are not close to your system. You are at home, you are at some remote place, not even close to your office. Everything is up and running, but people are not there, which in your systems, in particular in the finance industries, in the BFSI or in the broking industry, we never designed a system that everything is up and running, but peoples are not there. So entire landscape has changed. That's what Tanveer was mentioning also, that first few weeks, it was a complete thing. So I again say, you need to have your classifications done properly. Your risk has to be assessed properly. What are your vulnerabilities? What are your threats? How do you do the assessment? And you have to have a proper control on those things. And then you see the reports, or you see the updates, and then you plan your monitoring. So monitoring, when you say what are the things you monitor, and to see, actually monitoring is a typical 24/7. You need to do it. Your team need to do it, whether it's in-house or outsource. But it is a 24/7 activity. It's a non-stop journey. So things have changed, and you have to be in pace with the time. So you have to prepare that everything is up and running, but people may be close to system, or may not be the closest system. So monitoring proactively has to be part of your journey.
Yeah, Mr. Vishwas, you have some point to make here.
Essentially, we need to have sensors on each devices. So all the telemetry data of all these devices is monitored 24/7, because if you see what is happening, then you can mitigate it. So real issue here is, unless and until we don't have any endpoint monitoring or sensors on endpoints, either it may be servers or any endpoints, and you have a continuous telemetry of all these incidences, then only it is possible, because the attacks have become so vicious and so intelligent. So even PowerShell commands are getting monitored. You can have fire. People can fire PowerShell commands and modify your registry setting very easily. So right now, there is a vulnerability which is, happening on print spooler in Windows environment, and Microsoft has still today is not able to contain print spooler vulnerability. So simple thing like print spooler vulnerabilities, either all users have to be informed that they have to stop print spoolers from their OS on Windows side. So it's very, very important to have, continuous telemetry of what is really happening on real time.
Right, right, right. So, while we are at this, I know that, the challenges that you're talking about, Mr. Vishwas and Dr. Mukesh, you spoke about. Mr. Rafeeque, on this monitoring itself, actually, the kind of challenges that you would have faced in the recent past, and I'll come to you, Mr. Manish, after, taking views from Mr. Rafeeque.
We had found the users are there, they're misusing the laptops, they're misusing the applications, they're trying to be installed or something which is not allowed by the organization. And even some user, they have the admin password, so they can bypass the application easily, they can install and they like to what they want to do. But with the help of the Sophos, we start doing the application. What I want, they only can be accessed that. What the company is not allowed, they're not allowed to be accessed that. Even there is a lots of the phishing mail. Even me and Tanveer, we had find so many issue while the spamming mail and the phishing mail. Our domain is correct, everything is correct, but that then also this that user is trying to be attacked to my domain. But finally, with the help of the Sophos, we have came into the safe side and we have got that phishing mail. After that, we blocked all the things. Even we are controlling on the stores, broadbands and all. We don't know what the end user doing at the store end. So we can be through the web URL blocking we are managing. So what the user can be accessed, what user cannot be accessed. Even the lockdown, we don't know the what activity go on the servers and all in my absence, because once in a month or once in a thrice we visit to the office and go to data center and we check the system. So we can enabling all these, the nobody can access the server, nobody can install any kind of application without the Sophos admin permissions. So these all the basic things we had been we discovered with the Sophos.
Sure, Mr. Manish, your take on.
So, as Mr. Rafeeque told, user behavior, user activities are also a key point into that. Yes, Sophos has a good tool. Sophos is known for threat detections and protections, and I have a very good experience with Sophos. The OS of Sophos is very robust, and I would say it's almost non-hackable or non-breachable. That experience I have.
Okay, great.
So
Thank you.
really Sophos help to all these kind of user misbehave activities, threat detections and all that. Sophos is really helpful.
Sure, sure. Before I come to you, Mr. Vishwas and Dr. Mukesh, in terms of monitoring and everything seems to be, there seems to be a solution around. But if there is any quick thing from your side, both you, Dr. Mukesh, and you, Mr. Vishwas, in terms of while managing the threat landscape, in terms of monitoring and being kind of vigilant about it, if there are any challenges, you still think that even despite today's tools and technologies being around, there is some gap somewhere. If you can, if you want to share that, that would be great, because we have a subject matter expert here, so that could be some input for them to kind of strengthen their R&D work. But anything from your side, Dr. Mukesh? Anything from your side, Mr. Vishwa?
I think one of the biggest thing is the missing in this entire infosec landscape is the skill set of the people. I keep on saying we plan for the today, but the hackers and all the other people are planning for the next week, next month, or next year. So they are far ahead of us, and we are doing the planning for the today. So the problem with the corporates or the SMEs or everybody is the skill set is a real problem. And on top of that, particularly in the BFSI and the financial markets, the regulators are too demanding. They need this type of reporting, whether it's exchange reporting, whether it's a SEBI reporting, or in case of IRDA, in case of RBI, they are also too much of demanding. So that's where the biggest problem for us is the skill set of the people and the right fitment of the various things. So this is one of the thing which is a problem for us. Another thing is how do we manage the people actually. So people is the biggest culprit, or the biggest the weak link in entire infosec planning is the people. They will by mistake, genuinely or by mistake, they will click something which will create problems for everything. So you need to have a lot of phishing tests, phishing demos and all those things. And what we keep on trying to do is that we try to make them awareness of the infosec. And the biggest thing what we had actually I trying is that I try to make everybody as a CISO. I keep on telling, because I'm not the CISO, my team is not the CISO. You are the CISO of the organization. You need to be alert. You need to be doing this thing. So these are the few problems of the people related, and the problem of the regulators asking too much of things. You are focused there also, here also, and then on the top of that, the hacker, the intruders are they are far ahead of you, and you as a individual CISO or CIO, we are planning for the today, we are planning for the day, and they are ahead of us, maybe in a weeks or maybe in months or years ahead of us. So these are the few things which we really is creating a problem, or they are the concern areas at the when I see myself as a in the hat of or the shoes of a CISO or CIO's role. So these are the things which we really need to address it.
Great. Mr. Vishwas, you had some input.
Yeah. So issue here is now the workforce is now working from home, and 70 to 80% of the traffic is now coming into HTTPS. So having some kind of a man in middle attacks are happening very rampantly. So having certificate management on endpoints and having some kind of a TLS encryption and decryption at edge is now becoming requirement. So probably installing some kind of endpoint scanning where you can have HTTPS scanning enabled, and because many times the users are not connected to firewall, so you cannot have scanning of HTTPS traffic happening. So putting these kind of HTTPS scanning, because nowadays nobody is pushing any malware through HTTP. Everybody is on HTTPS. Right. So it's very important to have something on endpoints which will because when they are connected to corporate networks, you can very well protect them. But nowadays nobody is on corporate network. They are in their homes, and their computers are used not only by themselves, but they are used by their family members as well.
Right.
So I think the real challenge is to protect assets in the homes and secure them.
Sure. I think the challenges are enormous, as you said, Mr. Vishwas, and Dr. Mukesh, you also spoke about, and Manish highlighted the same thing. I think in the interest of time, what I would like to do is that I like to, we have got some very good questions come up. So I will like to ask those questions and then perhaps touch upon maybe one or two points very briefly, but we have precisely around 10 minutes left with the session. So this is the first question which has come for Mr. Ravindra. And this has been asked by Mr. Sen Gupta from HPCL. He's saying that we at HPCL are using on-site data center. Our offices are also partly work from home operation. How do you propose to build in your solution in our on-site data centers? Ravindra, if we can have your response, please.
Yep. So there, can you just repeat the question, because I'm being muted by organizer most of the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I'll just, so this is the question which has come from Mr. Sen Gupta from HPCL. He's saying that we at HPCL are using on-site data centers. Our offices are also partly work from home operations, right? How do you propose to build in your solutions in our on-site data centers?
All right. So now, yeah, we can deploy our solution on your on-site data center, but that's not the question here. Now, when users are working from home, and the people who are managing your security are also working from home, that on-site data center which typically requires or has multiple screen where you get detections and the alert, all those SOAR SIEM solutions are installed there, and they are trying to correlate it sitting in house, right? Those are not the case today when we all are working from home. So you need to have, and that's the only reason I emphasize on a point that cloud adoption has increased a lot, right? And you need to have a dashboard, a central management dashboard. uh, Maybe you have an on-premise solution, on cloud solution, but dashboard has to be on cloud which can be accessed from anywhere, right? And all those telemetry of the solutions which you can deploy from Sophos, like most of you must be aware about that Sophos has end-to-end security, starting from next generation firewall, email security, mobile device management, endpoint encryption, right? So all those solutions can be deployed, but are you getting events and the alerts from all those solutions at a place, where a central place, I would say, where you can correlate all those alerts? Now, as I said, attacks have become more coordinated. You need to identify a suspicious activity way before than the actual breach happens, right? So that's why Sophos plays an important role, right? All those solutions which you can deploy from Sophos, all those alerts will be generated onto Sophos central management platform, right? And Vishwas
So
sir just showed that
last, Mr.
to
Ravindra,
everyone.
Ravindra, we missed you. If you can just repeat last two, yeah, if you can repeat last two, three sentences, because we had missed you in between. There was some
All
signal
right,
issue, I believe.
all right. So you can deploy many solutions what Sophos has, right? Starting from endpoint protection and detection, uh, then next generation firewall, email security. But the best thing what we do is, after deploying these solutions, all the events and the alerts are coming to a central dashboard, that is Sophos central platform. Vishwas sir has just shown that platform, right? And if you have an
Mhm.
in-house team, right, that in-house team can leverage, correlate that data, and detect a suspicious activity way before than it actually becomes a full breach, right? That's the best part of it. And
Sure.
if you don't have a team to do it, right, hire a managed services which will do it on the behalf of you. So you don't need to worry about where users are, right, where your IT security team is sitting onto it. Managed threat detection and response team can help you by detecting all those suspicious activity way before and alerting you and helping you to neutralize and contain them.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Ravindra. Next question is to you, Mr. Tanveer. This is the question from Mr. Vivek Daria. And he's saying, if
Yeah.
we had Sophos agents deployed in our infrastructure, it will add the MTR product and begin collecting data immediately? So this is the first question. Second question is, does this have AI ML embedded in it? And the third question is, Sophos rapid response services is available for both Sophos customers as well as non-Sophos customers.
Okay, so I'll start with the first question. That Sophos MTR offering is available. So we have different product offering and SKUs, starting with the next generation endpoint, then going to the XDR, and then the MTR agent. So once the customer chooses one of the SKU, and if he chooses MTR, from that day onwards, the MTR would start implementing, and they would start monitoring the customer setup. So it is up to the customer what they choose, and based on that, the sensors data, as Vishwas ji showed us, really helps customers. And we have seen value during lockdown, that people using the MTR, because as Vishwas ji rightly said, you don't have the workforce. And if you see the Ravel ransomware attack which happened in a weekend, so there are challenges with resources, time, and people. So yes, if you have a service, you choose a service called MTR, you would be monitored from day one. The question two, that does our product has an AI ML? Yes, the basic which I started with, the basic SKU, the Intercept X product, starts with an AI ML, which is a purely signature less, wherein our telemetry which comes across different products, as Ravi showed in his slide. The ACE Eco Group, we have email data, we have firewall data, we have other sources of telemetry which is putting in data to our data lake, which makes our detection more precise and crisp when it comes to catching hold of the bad guys, which we have seen are in a third party test, that Sophos is able to perform well. whenever there are 0 day. In fact, for Reveal ransomware, we were able to detect the ransomware with our agent, which was released in 2017. So just imagine the future attack which was not known to us, our product was still able to detect. So that's the beauty of AI and ML. So any product, any attack which happens, sorry, our product is able to do that. And the third question was the RR services. Yes, so as I said, customers can opt in for different services like just the machine learning capabilities. But then what happens to customers who have the products in place and the tools in place? We have also seen that certain misconfiguration can also lead to attacks. Okay, and take an example: if a customer is using a Sophos product and is not configured well, or certain security service, as Vishwas rightly said, PowerShell, CMDs, WMI are some native commands which the attacker usually use. So earlier we should see the payload coming onto the system, but now that's really gone off. We have seen the latest attacks happening using the inherent applications of the operating system. That means your device is running an antivirus, and the antivirus sees a tool which is actually a trusted tool, so it becomes very difficult. So RR then helps you, for customers who is not using an EDR or an MTR, wherein they don't have a team maybe to do the investigation. Yes, so RR can be used by Sophos as well as non-Sophos customers, so that we give them a right path. We show them from where the attack started, so that they can mitigate, stop that backdoor, so that it could not spread further to the different networks or perimeter like email or mobile or your data centers.
So Tanveer, another question from a person by the name Devdatta. The question is, how Sophos restricts user from installing software in the system? Do we use any Sophos endpoint to check this?
So see, with Sophos, we know that Active Directory does that better. Okay, and Active Directory is known in the industry. So what we do here is we restrict the execution of the application, because the from the attack point of view, if you see installation, of an application like Tor would not have any impact, but running Tor, opening backdoors would actually have an impact. So what Sophos does is we stop the execution. We don't allow the application to run. So running application gets exploits open, vulnerabilities are then open to the attack factor. The attackers can leverage that. So we don't allow execution only. The installation would happen if the user has the admin permission.
Great, thanks a lot. I think there is one more question, but that should be answered offline, I believe, because most of the answer has already come. But there's this question from Mr. Mahesh Kumawar. He says that I want to know Sophos' best 5 things to procure it in the enterprise company. Maybe Ravindra, you can take it up while summarizing this session, or maybe Tanveer, you want to do that. But I think and this would be the last question that we take from our attendees. But before that, let me just come very quickly for 1 minute to all my esteemed speakers and ask one question. A very quick response from you, Mr. Vishwas, Dr. Mukesh, Mr. Rafeeque, and Mr. Manish, is that we've spoken about the whole threat landscape and everything, right? So how do we build practices, and as we spoke about SOAK being not just technology but technology, people, process part put together. How are you kind of dealing in your enterprise, bringing the whole element of proactiveness in the whole operations versus that whole piece that we spoke about? Maybe we can start with you, Dr. Mukesh, and go to Mr. Vishwas. And
I think few things we need to do as a routine, as a daily practice. It's not something. First thing is you need to have uh, a proper process where you do the gap analysis. This is very important. What is happening? What is in your SOC? What is happening and what is missing? Once you do the gap analysis, then the direct picture comes, how where you can improve, how you can improve. So that is the step, that is the journey you should continue. First, the gap analysis, what is missing, what is missing, what is standard practice. Then you focus on the improvement, where it can improve, where you can improve by own, or where you bring in the third party consultant or the managed services or something like that. to further consolidate your improvement. So that is the first thing you need to do it. Another thing is that from the again the in the corporate world, the weakest link is the user. So you need to have a awareness, a regular practice of the awareness or advisories to the user. What I said earlier, try to make everybody feel like he's the CISO of the company. So CISO is you have 200 people in the company, so make 200 people as a CISO or 500 people as a CISO. So they will understand what are the challenges a CISO has it. So that those are the things you need to have it from the user point of view, from the other every point of view. And another problem, these are the things which you do it on a regular basis. I think I can stretch it too long, but I think we are in a
Yeah.
I'll stop
So
myself
very,
because in the interest of
yeah,
the time.
I think very important point that you brought up is about the user awareness, and because the security end of the day, in my mind, remains in the hands of the end user in the organization, and they play a critical role there. But thank you so much for bringing in that point, Dr. Mukesh. Mr. Vishwas.
I think it's very important. Prevention is better than cure. So preventing incidents is very, very important. And right now, what I feel is that solutions like antivirus are outdated now. So any antivirus solution will not prevent attack. That is for sure. So you need some solutions which are, really AI ML based and which are on the endpoints. So there is no point in doing firefighting. So let's prevent the fire before it happens.
Sure.
That's the advice from me.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Quick take. And the quick take is, instead of going for data insurance, go for MTR kind of solutions, or so they will, the amount of money you spend on SOS services or insurance, you spend that money on prevention. That will mitigate all the risk.
Right. Mr. Rafeeque, thank you so much, Mr. Vishwas. Mr. Rafeeque.
Yeah, Mr. Dr. Mukesh, how the user should be get the educate, and users should be to know what to do and what not to be do. And very important, we have to keep the active monitoring the activity. What threads? Many times we get the alerts of all the threads and all. So I think it's very important to keep the alerts active on proactive base.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Manish. How do you become proactive? Like, what are the measures that you are taking in order to make your organization proactive, deal with these issues that we've spoken about?
The very first point is user education. I believe awareness and education is a measure. We should keep educated users, awareness of the threats, and timely make them aware about the possible threats. That is the first cons, I believe. And the second is, as a CISO, a person has to be keep updated himself for the latest technology and latest tool. And his tool, whatever tool he is using, that to be all the time updated and need to be controlled manner.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. My last question to either Tanveer, to you, or Ravindra, you could decide to answer this question. But I think during the discussion we have learned the threat landscape is changing very fast. It's like unbelievable pace, right? Tanveer, you spoke about proactiveness and certain attacks, and then the tool could handle it beforehand, like so those kind of things. So on one hand, that is the kind of requirement. On the other hand, as Mr. Vishwas also mentioned, and Dr. Mukesh also mentioned that security being in the hands of the end users, right? And prevention is better than the cure, right? So all this leads to only one thing, which is what is it being done by principal like yourself, Tanveer, you and Ravindra, that promises this industry leaders to kind of have the enough trust in the providers that our vision will be achieved, right? Because they are in some sense looking at you as solution provider, subject matter expert, to kind of have that peace of mind back at their work, right? So, what are the assuring messages that you have to conclude this session today?
Ravi, maybe you start first, then I'll
Yeah,
add.
I'll quickly summarize it, and while summarizing it, I'll answer the questions which you asked. 5 things which enterprise should look out for to buy Sophos, right? And I'll extend what Vishwas sir said. Prevention is better than cure, and there is an ideal saying in cybersecurity is prevention is ideal, detection is must, and however, any detection without response is irrelevant, right? And we play role at each level, right? We prevent you by providing best of the breed tools like firewall, endpoint, mobile, email, wireless, RAID devices, and we are coming up with secure switch as well very soon, right? So all these solutions are available. And people talked about user awareness. We do have user awareness training program tool called Fish Thread, right? Which can educate users about the biggest source of attack or the malware is a email, right? And having those tools is not enough. We do have detection tools like detection for EDR. Not only that, EDR generally talks about endpoint detection and response for endpoint and the server. We do have XDR, that is extended detection and response. And just to give you information to everybody who's attending this, Sophos XDR is free. So you have endpoint protection and server protection. You buy any other products, keep adding Sophos product. We are not charging anything for the XDR. So prevention we have covered, detection we have covered through EDR and XDR. Obviously, these all requires a skilled people who can use those telemetry and prevent the suspicious activity. If you don't have it, the team who can respond to all these alerts, we do have MTR, that is managed threat response, right? So it takes care of all the three aspects of an cybersecurity or incident response: prevention, detection, and response. So I think that's the overall thing which I wanted to conclude with.
Yeah, in fact, just to add, and before we conclude that, as you rightly said, and as Vishwaji and Mukesh rightly said, attacks are getting so sophisticated now. And if you relate this, the mid of 2020 and 2021, the trusted tools like the supply chain tools like Kaseya, then Exchange was attacked, Sunburst, SolarWind were attacked. So what this says to the customers is that your trusted tools are getting breached. So what are the best products you have in the industry which could protect you? And investing in latest technologies and tool, as Vishwatji rightly said, rather than going for an breach policy, better go for a tool which can give you that detection and visibility. And so that is what I would also suggest audience, that invest in a tool which can give you visibility, invest in a tool which could grow as the attack grows, and can detect, prevent when it is required. As Ravi rightly mentioned, XDR, MTR are a very great offering from Sophos. For customers who have a SOC, the customers who don't have a SOC, they can opt in for our MTR services, which would actually help. So that's my take on that. There.
Great. So thank you so much. I had this experience shared by all the esteemed speakers today, and I had this opportunity of learning from your experiences. Great thing. There is one thing as a takeaway that I am taking with me is from Mr. Vishwas. That is, the amount of money that you plan to spend on insurances. If that's the money that you can spend on tools and technologies, would you really need the insurances? Is something that I think we should all think about it. And thank you so much, Dr. Mukesh, for your valuable insights around workforce training, people training, because I think if there are breaches, these are the weak links, right? So if we are able to plug them up by making them as responsible as the CISO would be in the organization, I think you are building a strong fort. Highly unlikely that somebody can just, come in or get in the fort. So great learning experience from you as well, Mr. Rafeeque, and Mr. Manish. So thank you, Tanveer. Thank you, Ravindra, for your inputs as a subject matter expert. I thoroughly enjoyed today's session and look forward to hosting you guys sometime soon. Thank you so much. Have a great
Sure,
day.
sure,
Take
my
care
pleasure.
and
Thank
stay
you.
safe.
Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
guys.
Take
Take
care.
care. Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe. Thank you.
Bye. Bye. Take care.